Welcome to another edition of the Day After Podcast. I'm Jared Johnson. I'm joined by the Mighty Joe Yeager. Well, Mighty Joe, first off, love the shirt, man. That's awesome.
Thank you.
I don't know if it comes across on the video.
I bet it'll come across.
As bright as it is. And I'm being sincere. I really like that shirt.
Thank you.
What I also really liked was that 23-22 great performance overall, great result from Texas Tech. To knock off number 11 undefeated Iowa State in Ames, Mighty Joe. Mighty Joe, what are we to make of this Red Raider football team that is now 6-3 overall and 4-2 in the Big 12? One game out of first, or a game and a half out of first place, a half a game out of second place, which would get you in the Big 12 championship.
I really don't know, man. I mean, it's an unpredictable team.
Yeah.
It really is. It's schizophrenic. Obviously, when they're on, they're pretty good. I mean, look, there aren't any real just ultimate powerhouses in the Big 12 this year. I mean, I think BYU is very good.
Mm-hmm.
And there aren't too many outside of Oklahoma State, maybe. There aren't any really just absolutely dreadful teams, I wouldn't say. I mean, Houston even jumped up and beat K-State.
They've won 3 games in the Big 12.
So, I mean, it's the whole conference is just one of these deals where, I mean, anybody can – sounds trite and cliche, but anybody can jump up and beat anybody. It's a mixed up, messed up thing right now. And Texas Tech is as big a wild card as anybody else in the conference. I'm not sure anybody really looks forward to playing Texas Tech because they don't know what they're going to get.
Yeah.
I mean, you may get a monster on your hand, or who knows? I mean, Tech can lay down like they did against Baylor. So this, it's just really a hard team to predict.
Well, one thing you know you're going to get when you play Texas Tech is a steady dose of Taj Brooks.
Yeah.
They looked in doubt Saturday night in Ames after, I believe he only had 7 carries in the first half. He gets 18 in the second half, 25 carries, including the game-winning touchdown, over 100, I think it's 122 or 127 yards, something like that. But he's creeping up now on the all-time career rushing list in Texas Tech history. And, man, what another stellar performance from Taj Brooks. And I think this is the best he's looked since the bye week. They mentioned it on the ESPN telecast, Mighty Joe, that the coaches told him, look, you're being too patient. You're dancing around too much. Go ahead and, find a hole and go attack it,
Mm-hmm.
And he did that, and he looked more like the Taj Brooks we all know and love.
Yeah, go figure. The coaches aren't the only ones telling him that. We were telling him that too.
Yeah.
But I got a feeling the coaches made a little bit more of an impact on him than anybody else.
Probably. Although, Mama Brooks stopped us after one game and said, "Hey, they watch our channel." So I'm just saying,
it's possible, man. So, but yes, definitely looked much better, much more decisive, and the usage of Taj Brooks in this game was a little bit unusual.
Yeah.
Some people might have another adjective to describe it, but he killed it on the first drive.
Yeah.
I mean, that first drive was a perfect first drive. Would they start the game running it 7 or 8 straight times, 6,
something
7,
like that.
Even that.
They brought in Jacoby Williams and they gave him a carry too.
That's right. And it was just clicking. They were right down the field, zipping down there, and then on their one pass, they haul off and chuck it down there, and Josh Kelly was just wide open and strolled into the end zone. Yeah. It was the ideal drive, but then in the middle portion of the game, you didn't see much of Taj Brooks at all. He kind of vanished. The offense, perhaps not coincidentally, began sputtering.
Yeah.
And Tech only finished with 10 points in the first half. They scored that first touchdown, field goal on the second drive, and then hit a dry patch for a long time.
Yeah.
Then second half, like you said, 18 carries, 17 carries, something like that.
He finished with 25 carries. I believe he had 7 in the first half, so 18 in the second half.
And lo and behold, your offense comes back to life again.
Yeah.
And then he caps it off there at the end, out of the wildcat position, goes in there for the TD. And, generally speaking, good things happen when Brooks touches the ball.
Absolutely. And you mentioned that opening drive, so we're talking drives. 2 other drives that were really impressive. Tech started at their own 2-yard line, went on a 12-play, 98-yard touchdown drive.
Now, which you called in the game thread.
I did, and that was fun. But I was it was a 3-point game, and where that came from, 12 plays was a guess. Obviously, they had 9 yards to go. And I was just, look, it's your fandom. Do with it what you will. It's not a call out. But the reason why I did that was because Tech was down by 3 points, again, against an undefeated number 11 ranked team at their place. They were right there, one play away. The defense was battling. I really respected, and that's a whole nother conversation we'll get into in here in a minute. But I just felt like, and it's a game thread. I've been doing this for over a decade, running these game threads on Inside the Red Raiders. I get it, but I was just sick and tired of all the complaining and bitching. I just got sick of it, and I was like, let's throw some positivity in there. Let's just flip it up, change it up a little bit. Tech is battling. This is worthy of some optimism. And you know what? I'd rather be lucky than good. And more than anything, I'm happy for Texas Tech because that was a huge momentum changing drive where Tech said, everybody kind of looked at each other and said, Tech might be meant to win this. But then, of course, all these other things happen, which I guess this is a good part in between that drive and then, of course, the game winning drive. Your defense made some plays, but then you had a situation where you had 4th and 1 just inside Iowa State territory.
44-yard line, I believe it was.
Yeah, and so around midfield, I think everybody understands in that situation. I think Tech was up by 1 with around, I don't know how many, like 8 minutes left or something like that. Right. And it's go time. You got Taj Brooks. It's go time. You bring in Jalen Conyers for the Wildcat formation, and that has worked before. So I don't have a problem with it. But what I do have a problem with is the lack of execution. They get a delay game, and so they go back 5 yards. At that point, I think you punt. Your defense has held Iowa State to 16. And what was going through my head, Monty Joe, was what McGuire said. When I asked him on the Monday in the press conference leading up, I asked him about that decision, that 3rd and 7, that Will Hammond run where he fumbled against TCU. Right. And he, out of the blue, brought up the 4th and 3 decision to kick a field goal, and that haunted him. So I think that bothered him all week, that he wished he had stayed aggressive and gotten points when he had the ball, when they had control of the game. So I think he just said, screw it, we're going for it. And it was the wrong decision. Now, Barron Moore made a great play running around, but then errant throw. I don't think that was Josh Kelly's problem. No. Josh Kelly had a great game, by the way. 19 targets, caught 8 passes, I think 137 yards and 2 touchdowns. But and I'm going to give you the floor here in a minute, but I just want to set it up for you. I think that was a terrible decision. Now, you get away with it because Iowa State misses a field goal. The defense holds up again. You get the ball back with, 5 minutes left, and up by 1. You go 3 and out.
Yeah, right.
You run Taj once. He gets stuffed. You do an RPO. You decide to throw it. It's incomplete. 3rd down, incomplete. You got a punt. And Iowa State scores. Everybody knew that was going to happen. Yeah. Those decisions almost cost you the game. I mean, I really believe that. I think that was bad coaching. They almost cost you the game. Now, end result, Texas Tech won the game, but that was disconcerting, and it almost cost what was a great effort from the players. What's your thoughts about those series of drives there?
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I haven't seen. I think I've seen one person or heard about one person who was willing to defend going for it on 4th and 6. Everybody else I've seen was like, it's obviously a bad call, wrong thing to do. And it was just really, to me, out of characteristic or out of character for Coach McGuire this year, because he had gone back to the traditional decision making. Mm-hmm. When it seems clear that it's wise to punt the ball in a 4th down situation, you do. When it looks like it makes good sense to go for it in a 4th and short or something like that, you do it. And I know there's a lot of other factors going in, but that you get the general idea. And you're not relying on analytics so much. You're going on sort of just football horse sense, to call it, or intuition, or whatever. Experience. I mean, he's a veteran coach. He's been around certainly at the high school level for a long time. If you've been around football that long, you should have a sort of an innate knowledge of what makes sense and what doesn't in those 4th down situations. Now, there are certainly others that are much iffier. They're in the gray area, and you could make a strong case either way. But that 4th and 6 decision was like out of character for everything he had done hitherto this part of the season, up to this point in the season, and it burned him. But it really didn't burn him because the defense bailed him out.
Yep.
But if Tech had lost that game because Iowa State marched down there and scored a touchdown, we'd be singing a very different tune right now. You can kind of forgive him for, like you said, he had some sort of motivation, presumably from the field goal that he kicked. He didn't like it, and so whatever. But still, that clouded his judgment, and he made a mistake there, and it didn't hurt him. But it was one of those games where Texas Tech had tons of self-inflicted wounds.
Yeah.
To me, that was in the Jaeger shots. That's what it was all about. Was how Texas Tech won in spite of itself.
Yeah.
I don't ever remember a Texas Tech game where the team just played dirty football, not clean football, just the opposite, and just tried to give it away again and again and again. And yet still somehow overcame it. And they did. And, that final drive was a classic example there where at least 3, 4, 5 situations where it looked like Tech had fatally wounded themselves. Yeah. And then they come out and pull it out anyway. And that was just about the darndest thing I've ever seen.
One thing that helped Texas Tech win in spite of all the mistakes they made was Iowa State was uncharacteristically self-detrimental too. I mean, all the penalties, I can't believe how many penalties they had. They turned the ball over, questionable play calls by both their offensive coordinator and, in my opinion, by Matt Campbell. I think a couple of times he could have been more aggressive when he chose to kick a field goal inside the 5 at one point. And, I think they made a lot of mistakes. But let's go over that last drive that Texas Tech had to win the game. And kind of detail what you talked about. Now, first off, a couple of nice plays. You got a nice run from Taj to kind of get things open, which usually happens when you have a good drive. And then you get down and around midfield again, same kind of thing. And by the way, the field was terrible. Yep. Iowa State should be ashamed of themselves. But anyways, Caleb Rogers gets a false start. So it's 3rd and 15 at some point. Baron Morton scrambles for 8 yards. That was a really good play. 4th and 7, makes just a clutch throw. Great catch by Josh Kelly because that ball was humming. He was in traffic in the middle of the field. And Iowa State knew they were going to be looking for Josh Kelly because, again, he'd been targeted 19 times. He leads the country in 3rd down catches and catches for first downs and all those things. But Tech did it anyways. And it was really clutch. Now, Baron missed some throws. There were some deep throws, great calls, great routes by Tech receivers, and he missed a couple touchdowns on that drive. But in the end, he made several plays, including one. It was the pass was behind him, but Jordan Brown caught a pass down on the half-yard line. Right. So it was down on the half-yard line. It wasn't a touchdown. And you're thinking, well, it's 1st and goal. You got Taj Brooks. It's okay. Well, you bring in Jalen Conyers and the Wildcat again, and it's a false start. And it's like, I'm thinking, don't bring Conyers back out in the Wildcat, at least in this game, 1st and goal from the 5 or 6, 5.5, 6, incomplete pass to Mason Tharp. 2nd and goal. You bring in Jalen Conyers again in the backfield, but it works. And you have him not directly behind center. You have Taj behind center. You have Jalen Conyers next to him in the backfield, kind of like a running back or a up back or whatever. And he throws just a hellacious block, just totally takes this guy like out of the screen, off the field almost. Taj is able to run in, corner of the end zone, untouched, and Texas Tech wins the game. So, that is a great example, like you said, of what a roller coaster. Mistake. But then you will yourself to victory in the end. And I guess that's my overall takeaway is, this is a flawed team, but there are some really good parts to it. And they have a high character and high want to. So at least the will was there against Fort Worth, or against Texas Tech or TCU in Fort Worth last week as well. It didn't, TCU made one more play than you did. Same kind of thing, 50-50 game. You had a lot of those, Arizona State, Cincinnati, but ACU, but you found a way to win in the end, mind you.
Yeah, and they're, I believe, 5-1 in one possession games this year.
Yep.
So, that's pretty doggone good. One thing that you didn't mention in the drive was Tech started off the drive with a false start by Ty Buchanan.
Oh, yeah.
1st and 15. Yeah. I mean, how's that?
There's so many of the mistakes.
I know. You could go on and on and on. And, looking back at it on that that Wildcat situation, with down on the half-yard line, and he hit the false start.
Yeah.
Whether the false start occurred because of the Wildcat or not, who knows? But that 3rd and 7 against TCU, where Hammond ran it, right? I think there was some suggestion that I saw from various people that would have been a really good situation to run Conyers with a Wildcat situation. And I'm just wondering if Kidley saw that in the back of his mind, that was working. Like, they got a point. Maybe if we get in a situation like that where we got to have something critical, you go with Conyers.
Yeah.
And so I don't know if that was part of the calculus. Just throwing that out there.
No, that makes sense.
So that, who knows if that was a factor, maybe. But they capped it off. They paid it off, and it was just unbelievable, man. It really was.
Let's talk about Baron Morton real quick, because there were some throws he missed, some plays not made out there, but overall, what a gutsy performance on the road. I think that's the best win of his career. And they've had some good ones under Morton, but man. Considering the setting, the opponent, you're going against one of the top pass defenses in the country, in their place, great defensive coordinator. You had to will them back a couple of times. It was a seesaw game, really, where it looked like one team had control, then the other team would take it. And like you said, so many mistakes from both teams. And he threw 2 interceptions. He had 3 interceptions on the season coming into that game. He threw 2 in the first half. So you're talking about a ton of adversity that Baron Morton was staring down. Plus, even myself, I was like, hey, at halftime, I was like, I'd like to see Will Hammond at this point, just because they were so ineffective for that stretch. And he was missing throws, missing wide open receivers. But, good thing I'm not a coach at Texas Tech, because they stuck with Baron, and, everybody won because of it. Because, yes, he did make some mistakes. He does have some limitations, but the dude is a winner. And he has a lot of toughness, whether it be playing through that injury he had last year or facing that adversity he had against Iowa State yesterday, and still find a way to win. And make no mistake, it was on Baron Morton. Like, can Baron Morton do this? And he got Taj Brooks. I know he scored the game-winning touchdown. He made some plays, and Iowa State was aware of him. But Baron Morton had to make some plays where Taj couldn't really help him out. He had to do it, whether it be with his legs or his arm, and he did it on that drive. And he did it at times throughout the game too, Joe.
Yeah, and speaking just back to the interceptions briefly, on that 98-yard drive, there was another interception that was called back by the hands to the face against Iowa State.
Yep.
So could have been 3. I was like you, like, man, maybe it's time to give Will a shot at this thing. And I wouldn't have been upset if Hammonds had started the game. I would have been okay with that. But the thing is, if Hammond had started, who's to say that he might not have played very, very well, and things had gone very well, and maybe Tech goes ahead and wins. But there is no guarantee that if the situation had been as it was, where Tech had to score and march it down the field on the final drive of the game, basically, if the freshman would have been able to do that.
Right.
mean, maybe not. But the fact is that Baron Morton did it. And it's a hard thing to do. I mean, against the number 1 rated pass defense in the country as well.
Yeah.
Right. Soupy conditions, off and on rain, everything.
Homecoming, loud crowd. Really tough place to play.
Yeah, it was a packed house, 50 to 61,500 people. And gritty as all get out. It was a Roger Staubach type of a drive.
Oh, wow. That's high praise for Mighty Joe right there. For anybody comparing him to Roger the Dodger there.
Yeah, I mean, that's the sort of drive that I used to see him lead the Cowboys on back in the 70s, where, hey, there were times when I didn't see those drives because I was a little kid and I was so furious that Dallas was behind. And I was storming out of the room, and my dad would be saying, Joe, it's not over yet. Cowboys can come back and win. I go ahead and slam the door. 10 minutes later, my dad pops his head in. Cowboys won.
Wow.
But I missed a few of them, but I saw a few of them too. And that was, if Roger had been watching that game, I think he would have appreciated what Baron Morton did there.
Well, he might have, because it was on ESPN.
Yeah,
let's talk about this defense, which much maligned by me as much as anybody, and honestly, rightfully so. They were dead last in the country in pass defense. The secondary had just really struggled, gave up that 17-point lead. Hadn't been a lot of pass rush for most of the season, though it has been steadily improving. It was better against TCU. It was downright feisty against Iowa State. I mean, they got after Rocco Becht. I mean, he was almost never comfortable in the pocket, whether it be Harvey Dyson, Charles Esters. And for the first time, I really felt like they got more pressure from the interior defensive linemen. They weren't just pushing, as Joey McGuire's been saying. They were actually having some effect on the quarterback, at least making him uncomfortable, or the guys to the outside could get to him. The quarterback was having to take his eyes from downfield to what was right in front of him. And that was the first time I really feel like I saw that on any consistent basis, outside of just one play here or there, random play from the interior of the defensive lineman. And then you had those two inside linebackers blitzing, and they were outstanding. Jacob Rodriguez, again, forced fumble. I can't even keep up with all the stats he had. He led the team in tackles with 13. I think he had 2.5 tackles for loss. Like I said, that forced fumble. Ben Roberts, I think, had 2 sacks. And he also had a pressure that led to an interception by A.J. McCarty, who, say what you want about that dude, but he's always around the ball.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? He's just one of those classic ball hawk type DBs. He's just the guy makes plays. Don't get me wrong, he gets beat sometimes, but he's a good football player. And then Braylon Lux battling helped, Chapman Lewis, on that touchdown at the end of the first half, he was out of place there, obviously. Lux was expecting some help, and Chapman Lewis got lost in the scrum. They had 3 guys covering the tight end in the middle of the field, and that's what opened up things up. There weren't a lot of breakdowns in the secondary, though. I mean, that's kind of an understandable one. That's a scheme thing. Chapman Lewis gambled. He lost. Iowa State scored. But he played really good for him. I think that was the best game I saw from Chapman Lewis overall. And then Mo Horn, who he struggled. He has not been near as good as I think anyone was hoping on the season. But he had 9 tackles. He was second on the team with 9 tackles. And for a team that had been struggling tackling, for him to contribute, it wasn't just when other receivers caught the ball and he tackled them, that he was supposed to cover. So he was really helping out in run support. And then on that final drive, I said 20 seconds is too much, man. This game isn't over.
Yeah.
All Iowa State needs is a field goal. He had a big pass deflection as well. Almost got an interception on that. So Mo Horn, I think he had his best game of the season too. I got to tip the cap to him. I'm just really impressed that the defense responded the way they did. Not against an all-world Iowa State team, but a pretty solid Iowa State offense. And obviously, they were playing for a lot. They're playing to make history the first time to start off 8-0, to remain undefeated, all those things. They were playing for a lot. And Texas Tech's defense really answered the bell time and time again for the Red Raiders.
Yeah, to me, that was the biggest surprise of the game.
Yeah.
Because, in the run-up to this game, Tech was so banged up in the secondary, right? Yeah. Who was even going to be available? Are you going to wind up having to pull some guys off the scout team to fill in back there? Yeah. I mean, you had to wonder about that. And, they had been getting torched back there. I mean, the pass defense was awful. And then compounding the problem, as we mentioned, Iowa State had 3 pretty doggone good running backs.
And pretty good receivers, too.
Good receivers. And Rocco Becht is capable of running the ball. He didn't demonstrate it too much in this game, but he is capable. And, you saw Abu Sama, who at the time was tearing Tech up pretty good.
Yes. So,
the whole thing for me coming into this game defensively is with as much weakness and illness and injury as you got in the defensive backfield, how are you going to be able to protect that secondary and at the same time have enough people forward that you're going to be able to contend with the run? Mm-hmm. So I thought that was just going to be too much for Texas Tech's defense to overcome and for Texas Tech to overcome. And that's the main reason I picked Iowa State to win this game by a pretty wide margin. And man, it just never materialized. Yeah. And man, I mean, you talk about an aspect of this Texas Tech team that is up and down and hard to predict. This is the defense. I mean, they've had some really good showings this year, and then they've had other ones that are usually like, oh man. this is just
If you saw this
bad,
team, this defense against Arizona State and Iowa State, you think, man, this is the top half of the country.
Yeah.
You see them against Abilene Christian and Baylor, you're like, how are these guys even on scholarship?
Right.
Half the defense. You know what I mean? Like it really is. It's the best example of Jekyll and Hyde.
Yes.
Texas Tech's defense this year.
It really is. It really is. And I'm glad they got Jekyll. I guess Jekyll's the good one.
I don't know.
Do you want Jekyll or do you want Hyde?
On defense, I think I want Hyde.
You want Hyde. Yeah. So they were a Hyde showed up at Ames. And, it was just an absolutely outstanding performance overall. Held the running game in check for the most part. I mentioned Sama got loose a little bit. The receivers did some damage. But, I mean, you hold them to 22 points, man, at home. Again, coming into this game, if you told me Tech holds them to 22, I'm like, man, absolutely.
No way.
Tech probably, no way it's going to happen. But if you want to give it to me, I'll take it. The Tech's going to have a really good shot at winning the game. And, they rang the bell, man. They did.
It's funny. I didn't really think about it. Of course, I thought about the injuries in the secondary because, you look at the inactive list from yesterday, and there was a lot of DBs out. But a lot of them were guys that are in the 2D. This is the first time I could think of that the actual, not even the opening day, but who you wanted to start going into the season, coming out of fall camp in the secondary in terms of Baskerville, Chapman Lewis, Braylon Lux, and
Brendan Jordan started, actually.
And Mayhorn and Mo Horn. Yes. That's who played the majority in the secondary.
Right.
Now you had AJ in there. You had Brendan Jordan play some safety as well. Some free safety when Chapman Lewis got hurt, which was an interesting move. And I like Brendan Jordan. I know he gets some penalties. He'll miss some tackles, but he's an aggressive player. Tech needs that in that secondary. He's a big, pretty fast, aggressive player, and he's young still. So I think Brendan Jordan's a guy to watch in the coming years. He got that penalty, and he was really close. If he just turned his head on that pass interference, I think it wouldn't have been called.
Right.
That was pretty good coverage.
Yeah, and on top of this, I think this is the most physical game the defense played all year long.
Yeah,
I mean they were
popping.
They really were. And Ben Roberts just had one lick late in the game where he just met. It was like two Rams.
Yeah, it was two Rams.
Dodge Ram
That's
commercial,
great. That's great. Top of the mountain, side of the mountain, or whatever.
National Geographic, or something like that.
Yeah,
man, you could hear it.
Yeah,
that guy went back. It was like a miniature version of Christian Okoye and Steve Atwater. You remember that famous?
How could I forget? Yeah,
back in the 90s.
That was one of my favorite plays in football history. Steve Atwater, Nigerian Nightmare. He was never the same after that play. He was dominating the league. Atwater told him pre-snap. He leaned over the line of scrimmage and told him, "I'm coming for you. I'm gonna light you up." It was like a 3rd and 1, division rivals, and he did.
Yeah.
I mean, he just obliterated and stood over. Like you can't even do that stuff anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Like with the throw slash, and that was it. He effectively, I think Nigerian Nightmare played for like 2 more years, but he was doing the Herschel Walker tippy toe for the rest of his career.
Mm.
He was always looking for that next, Steve Atwater hit from a safety. That's crazy how it lets you know how mental these things are. And that was a mental play from Ben Roberts, and I'd say this in the Arizona game. Tech was really physical in that Arizona game as well. 2 road games. So that's really impressive. 2 big road wins. Think about how different the season would look without those 2 close road victories you got against the Arizona team, who turns out isn't all that great.
Right.
But Iowa State, who I think is a very good team. I think they're a very solid team.
Yeah.
So now Texas Tech has wins over Cincinnati, Arizona State, and Iowa State. 3 teams in the top half of the Big 12 standings. And then that loss to Baylor now doesn't look quite so terrible. They've won 3 consecutive Big 12 games. And your guy, who you said came out of nowhere, Washington, he had 4 touchdowns against TCU.
Right.
He ran for almost 200 yards and 4 touchdowns against TCU. So apparently they have found something in Baylor, with Baylor in their running attack and all that. So I think them and TCU are both 3-3, just a game back. And of course, they have the tiebreaker with you. But Cincinnati, Arizona State are also right there. You got Colorado coming to town. They're 4-1. Obviously Iowa State's 4-1. You got BYU atop the standings at 5-0. Kansas State fall. They were up 19-10 in the 4th quarter. Houston comes back and beats them. Yeah. So now Kansas State is with Tech at 4-2 in the standings. So, like you said, just other than BYU, just a mismatch or a mix of schools that are all capable of beating each other anywhere anytime this season.
Yeah. So, I mean, Tech has more than a mathematical shot at this thing right now. It seems like I read somewhere that Tech were to win out, and Iowa State loses one more than they could be in the championship game or something like that. Or
I haven't crushed the numbers yet.
Yeah.
If Tech beats Colorado, then it starts getting real to me. Then I'm like, okay, then I'll do some math for y'all.
Yeah.
I gave you the tiebreakers on the board. Here's the standings. I'm not delving into that math until it gets real, and it'll get real if Texas Tech can beat Colorado at home next week.
Exactly.
So 3 p.m. that game's on Fox. We could go on and on, but I just want to finish by saying hats off to the coaching staff, the players. Really, if you look at it, they're on schedule for what I thought going into the season. Yep. You just flip the Baylor loss and the win at Iowa State. I mean, they're bowl eligible. I didn't even mention that yet. It is a big deal to be bowl eligible, to go to a fourth consecutive bowl. I mean, this is different. This is an improvement from what we saw. I mean, we've been here breaking down every season, every game, every play. You've been doing it for a long time. I've been doing this is my 11th or 12th season doing it at Texas Tech. This is different what we're covering right now than what we saw 5, 6 years ago, 7 years ago, 8 years ago. It's closer. It's not there yet, but it's closer to the Leach era, I think, than it is the Kingsbury era.
Yeah, because you feel a lot better in November. You feel better about your chances at winning games in November. So if you're like over 500 in conference play going into November, then because McGuire's teams tend to play so well in November, I mean, you feel you got a shot at things, and that's where you're at right now. With Kingsbury, that was the time to swoon. It was like you shoot everything early on in the season, and oftentimes against weak opponents, and it just happens that the back end of the schedule was heavily loaded with good teams, and then you face the big boys and you get crushed. But you feel better about things now. So, Tech's got a shot at it. The Colorado game, who knows how that's going to work out. We're going to get into that later on in the week. Colorado has a bye.
Yeah.
But so did Iowa State. The more I look at things, the more I don't think a bye is necessarily such a good deal. I mean, I see, you get healthy, but I just see teams
you lose that momentum. You lose your edge. There's something about it.
The Baylor game.
Yeah.
Tech was after a bye. So, maybe this is a good thing for Texas Tech, for Colorado to have the bye, believe it or not. But on the other hand, there is the fear of a letdown.
Sure.
After this monster emotional win, can you gin that back up again, for another week, consecutive games? That's going to be the challenge. If you come out and play at the same level that you did against Iowa State, maybe clean things up a little bit more.
So many mistakes.
But play with that sort of effort and intensity,
physicality,
that willpower and physicality and all the intangible stuff. Then you're going to be
a shot. Yeah,
you really will. But it's going to be an interesting game.
It will be an interesting game.
Aren't they all?
Yeah, that's true. And you know what? I'm thankful for that.
Yeah.
The next step for Texas Tech this season was to play meaningful football in November. Yep. And those 2 losses against Baylor and TCU look like we lost that opportunity.
Right.
Now they're right back in it now. It's on. Yes. Now week-to-week proposition, you lose to Colorado, then everybody's like, but then you have Oklahoma State away and then West Virginia at home. So you have an opportunity against solid teams. But Oklahoma State's not. But it's tough to play there. You got to play them there. But all those games are winnable as well. So I'm just thankful, like you said before, it wasn't interesting. It was torture. It's going to be interesting. I can't wait to be there with you, watch the games, talk about the games, talk with them for y'all, and just see what these Red Raiders do. But for now, Mighty Joe, great stuff for you as always. Thank y'all for watching, and until next time.